Hi again, Mark here from Talkingbass. This week I'm going to give you a simple challenge that will easily highlight some fundamental weaknesses in your bass playing and musical ability. It's a simple test using only one string, and once you've tried the example I've provided, you can apply it in your bass practice in many different ways. So without further ado, let's give it a whirl. Okay, so this exercise is going to test your knowledge of the fretboard, the fundamentals of your theory knowledge, your position shifting, your walking bass ability, and your knowledge of whatever song you apply it to. All we're going to do for this exercise is play a very simple two-feel bass line through one of the most basic of jazz standards, Autumn Leaves. We'll keep it super easy by sticking to the root and fifth through the whole thing, and in case you don't know much about jazz bass lines, a two-feel just means basically 2 notes per bar, so we're playing on 1 and 3. So if we do that with root and fifth, and I'm on a C chord, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy. For the sake of time, we'll just look at the first half of Autumn Leaves, so basically the first 16 bars, which is the first 8 bars just repeated. So if you don't know the chord progression, if you're new to working on jazz standards, then this is one that you really want to commit to memory. The first half of the tune can be seen here. Now, I'm not going to waste time working through the progression and, performing an analysis of it or any of that, because it's only an example for now. You can try this exercise with any standard, but for now, here, I'll just play a basic 2-feel through those changes. So remember, we're playing on 1 and 3, root and fifth. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. So there I just played through the chords, choosing any root note and fifth at hand. I might go up, I might go down. It's my choice. Now, any of you that have a little experience of playing through standards will probably find this very, very easy. So now let's try the challenge. I want you to restrict yourself to playing on only one string. So pick a string, E, A, D, G, B or C if you've got them. Pick one that you feel more comfortable with to begin with and play the same root fifth bass line on that string. Now, I don't want you to memorize a bass line or memorize the frets that you're playing or anything like that. You're simply improvising a 2-feel line through that progression. So you pick a root note, maybe that's C there, then you pick a fifth, so you're going to play the G, and you just work through it like that. So, as an example, here I'll just play through that same progression on only the A string. So, a 1, 2, 3, 4. So, try that exercise and let me know how you did in the comments. Could you do it straight away? Was it easy? Were you able to play it very slowly and out of time, working the notes out each time, or did you fail completely? Now, I suspect a lot of you will fail this test, and that's not a knock on you all, it's just that the skills necessary for playing that exercise are not the skills many bass players work on, and it's these foundational skills that will make for a much smoother ride in your development as you progress. It's not difficult or advanced stuff, it's just the fundamentals that many bass players are lacking. So this tests your playing in several different ways. First of all, you have to know the notes on your fretboard. If you don't know those notes, you're at an instant disadvantage. Secondly, you need to know your fifth intervals. Now, there are no patterns allowed here. The movement up and down the fretboard and the need to work by note name forces you into thinking of them by note. So when I play over C minor 7, I have to find the root note, C. That's not too bad. But then I have to instantly know that the fifth of C minor 7 is G. And then I have to find that G. Okay, so here's a G. So the test there is twofold. Then you have to move to F7. So you have to know where you can find the nearest F. Okay, so here's an F. And then what's the fifth? Okay, it's a C. So I have to find a C either above or below. or up here, and so on. As well as these two problems, you also have to have the position shifting and technique to cleanly move up and down the fretboard. Now that's not a primary concern with the exercise, but it's just a secondary bonus for you. A lot of people find problems with moving up and down the fretboard when playing walking bass lines. This exercise forces you into moving through a variety of different positions without even thinking about them. So that's the challenge. Can you play a 2-feel through a jazz standard on one string? If you try this with no preparation, no working out where the notes are in advance, you'll very quickly discover a bunch of your limitations. Once you've tried it on your most comfortable string, try it on all the others. So if I tried on the D string, one of the strings that I guess most of you will stumble on, I might play it like this. So we begin, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now some of you have been well and truly humiliated by a simple exercise. How can you go about improving your playing enough to get through it? Well, there are a few things that you can do as preparation practice. First things first, you want to know the notes on your neck enough that you can at least find the root notes slowly. There are a bunch of different ways to learn your neck better. The best way is obviously to learn how to read music. Now I talk about this all the time. When you learn to read, you automatically learn your fretboard on an almost instinctive level. So that's the best way. Another way is to play through chord charts. Anything where you're transferring notes from the page to the instrument. Every time you do it, you have that little test. It doesn't have to be just standards. You could use any chord charts for songs in any style. So the Beatles Anthology book would be another great resource. But the key is to test yourself. Don't stick to your comfort zones. Loads of you will want to read a chord symbol and go for the frets you feel most comfortable with. So, if you see a C, you're probably going to want to go C, one of the ones that you use all the time. Instead, try restricting yourself to other areas of the bass, like up here between the 7th and 12th frets. Through repetition, you'll gradually build a better map of the notes in your mind, and once you've learned them, you won't forget. Another way of working through these notes is by using some simple note finder exercises. Now, I've got a few videos that could help in this regard that make use of the cycle of fourths. I'll link to them in the info below so you can get started. Another important part of this challenge is knowing your intervals by heart. You should instantly know that a perfect fifth from C is G, that a fifth from B flat is F, and that a diminished fifth, the flat 5, from A is E flat. You want to know them by note. If you only know them by pattern, that's not good enough, and one of the best ways to learn intervals is by way of spelling drills. A spelling drill is simply a recitation of a specific musical spelling. So for example, a C major scale is the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B. That's a spelling drill. I simply spelled it out. You can perform spelling drills for any musical content. So intervals, scales, chords, melodies, any of that stuff. It's just an easy way of learning them, and this can all be done away from the bass. The intervals in this exercise are all perfect fifths, with the exception of the diminished fifth on the A minor 7 flat 5. So try spelling drills for the perfect fifth. For the basic set of natural notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, we would have C to G, D to A, E to B, F to C, G to D, A to E, and B to F sharp. When you're learning them, try to think of little mnemonics and rhymes, anything to make it stick. So for those fifths, we could add a letter in between some of them. So C to G might become cog, and G to D might become God. There are many techniques for memorization. You could turn them into abbreviations. So DA could be district attorney. Anything that means something to you and that sticks. Lastly, you have to understand the chord symbols that you're looking at. You have to know what the notes of those chords are so you can play the correct chord tones. Without this understanding, you're likely to make mistakes. You have to know that the fifth in a minor 7, a major 7, or a dominant 7 chord is a perfect fifth, but in a minor 7 flat 5, it's going to be diminished. The same goes for the thirds and the sevenths, as well as any other scale notes that you might want to add into the mix as you move into walking bass lines. Over at Talking Bass, I have several courses devoted to all of these things. There is the Chord Tone Essentials course that teaches you the construction principles and chord tones within every chord that you're ever likely to encounter. There's also Simple Steps to Walking Bass that teaches you how to walk from the very basics of two-feel that we played here through to advanced walking on more complex jazz standards. Combine those with the Simple Steps to Sight Reading course and you've got all of the resources required to work on the skills needed for this challenge. Again, I'll link to them in the info below. Now, once you've done a little more practice on those elements of your playing, you can use this challenge to test where you're at with your development. When you try playing the exercise, don't worry about being in time. You don't have to play to a click or a track. Just try to find the notes. So using Autumn Leaves as the example, we take the C minor 7, and if I'm using the A string here, find the C in your own time. So there's a C. And then find the fifth, the G. So you've got to find that G. Okay, where's the G? Okay, I found the G. Don't worry about it being in time. And take your time as you work through the progression. Try it on each string to work out which are your problem strings, and also try memorizing the progression itself. Don't rely on the page for reminders. Once you have the chords committed to memory, the exercise will help cement them in there because you'll be going over it again and again and again without even realizing it. You'll be too caught up in the movement around the neck and the working out of all the notes and the intervals to worry about memorizing the tune. So once you feel comfortable with playing two feel lines on one string, try a full walking line. This is tougher in some ways because you have to know your full arpeggios and scales on a single string. But it's actually easier in other ways because you don't have to jump up and down as much. So as one last example, here's that first half of Autumn Leaves again, but walking 4 to the bar. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the challenge. Remember to let me know in the comments how you did with the test. Give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Also follow the link in the info below for access to the lesson material and a whole host of other practice resources and courses over at Talking Bass. And I'll see you next week.